Hi, it's Wednesday, the 8th of July. Welcome to Together Unlocked. I'm Ju Gosling, Artistic Director of Together 2012, the disability arts organisation that's bringing you this live stream today. With me in my East London studio is our chair, the artist Julie Newman. We're going to come back to us in a minute for some bigger introductions and a bit of audio description. But first of all, we're going to go over to the other half of our virtual sofa in the West Midlands for some introductions and audio description there.
So, good afternoon. I am Robin Surgeonator. I am Business Director at Together 2012, and also an artist in my own right using the name Angry Fish. Yeah, we are up here in Sutton Coldfield on our very long sofa. I have white hair. I'm going that way now. It's definitely more white than anything else. Um, Slightly bushy eyebrows because I can't go to the barbers and I keep getting told off that they're bushy. Enough, too much info really there. Some no rimmed glasses with silver frames, and I am sporting literally a um, sky blue Nike sweatshirt, which kind of says Nike GB on it in some stylized way.
It says SB
Or it could be
actually.
SB. I don't know.
It is.
Oh, okay. Apparently, it is Nike SB. I'm not. I just wear it because it
Well,
looks
enough
nice.
of the advertising. Let's move this on.
The other brands are available.
I'm Josh Surgeonator. I'm a host of Together TV and a doctoral research student. I have swept over blonde hair, clean shaven, no glasses, and I'm wearing a kind of triple layer uh, fleece lined grey zippy sweatshirt because it's a lovely wintry summer's day in the West Midlands office today. So needed the extra layers.
I almost, but not quite, envy you that it's been a grey day in East London with a lot of rain, but it's actually still quite warm. I have a short Corona crop, courtesy of the dog's shears, hennaed red. I have black framed glasses, black wrist braces, a bright green short sleeved top, and some silver jewellery. Julie,
Yes, I've got silver and gold hair, dark rimmed glasses, and today I'm wearing a navy blue polo shirt with little anchors on it because I'm a little bit all at sea.
yes, we're still trying to decipher the government's letter about what the lockdown changes mean for us because all of us are shielding. We're bringing you this show 3 times a week for as long as it takes for things to return to a so called new normal. For disabled people, we expect that to be quite some time to come. We have disability arts, we have chat, we have some virtual sport and gaming, and we always have a laugh. Usually, we would be running a year round programme on weekday mornings in East Ham for any disabled person who can get there with anybody they want to bring with them, completely free, and we cover a wide range of different arts activities. That's really the outreach program, or our clubs program as we call it, for our artistic program, which is also free and open to everybody but led by disabled artists. And we'll be talking more about that later in the program. Today would be our pop up poetry club day, and we were expecting, I know, finally to be able to relaunch this as a phone group. But what happened, Julie?
There were gremlins. There were gremlins in the system, and they had to be evacuated and taken out and removed strongly, and the system to be cleansed. Hopefully, we're going ahead with it. We've got a test in the morning. We'll test it again another couple of times, but all being well, we'll be expecting to have it functioning as it should be next Wednesday for our poetry club.
That's great. This show is going out to you as part of our Join In From Home program. So the fact that our East Ham based is closed doesn't matter. We have lots for you to do, and we'll be talking about that later. But we're very aware that if you're watching this, you're somebody who has broadband or an unlimited data package, and many, many people do not. including most of the people who participate in our year round programme. We've had a comprehensive one to one phone based package since the beginning of April, I think, but we have really, really struggled to find any kind of system where we can have a group phone call and we can pay for it, because we know that finance is always an access barrier. I mean, it seems very odd these days when you can have an international video conference that we still can't connect people by the telephone. Do you have any thoughts on this in the West Midlands, apart from to say tut tut?
um, I mean, I think like yourselves, we're just a bit kind of miffed that it seems to be so difficult. When before computers, or certainly before, not before computers per se, but before everybody had mobile phones and systems were so much more um landline based, we all used to do conference calls, and one person would host the call and phone everybody from a central phone. And you've only got to watch any American spy show and someone's got a phone on a desk that phones everybody all at the same time, and they all chat back. So I mean, accepting that someone at the other end has to have a phone, and if it's a mobile, they've got to have a connection bit to it, but not paying for outgoing. It just seems bizarre that it's proving quite so difficult to do it.
I think so. And I think it just really underlines what indeed we've been saying as an organisation since we were founded in 2013, to take forward the legacy of our Together 2012 festival in East London to celebrate the Paralympics. We've been trying to point out that, many disabled people, particularly older disabled people, simply don't have internet access, and many people, including, it has to be said, locally, many young black people simply can't afford the data packages on their mobiles that would allow them to really engage. So even if you've got a smartphone, having some kind of, as you say, old fashioned phone conference system is going to be really critical going forward. We hope, I mean, it took us a very long time to find a group that were prepared to build us a system. Prior to that, we were being sold systems, like a GoToMeeting, who claimed they could do this. And of course, it turned out only if you also had the internet. So hopefully they will crack it, and then we will be able to recommend it to lots of other groups, because one of the things that we're thinking is a poetry club where everybody is wearing a mask is not much fun. A poetry club where you can't stand up and do performance poetry to each other is not much fun if you can't share a cup of tea. All of these things ultimately seem to translate better to sit down at home, make yourself your own cup of tea, have a nice couple of biscuits, do your poetry, read it on the phone as loudly as you want. You can do voice exercises together, you can do breathing exercises together. We just need to be able to use the phone. So, yes, it's like the world has reversed from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is more issues than just the funding as well. In the sense of, my parents are still both alive, and they're 84 and 92. They've got an iPad, which they love to look at photos on. That's the extent of its use. And my sister lives much closer than we do. Goes around and laboriously tells them how to use it, and then they don't ever remember. And I think that, and so these assumptions that everybody's going to know how to do stuff. I mean, I've got old computer bod next to me here, who lots of people would kind of, show him he doesn't know much about computers because they're computer experts, but he makes me feel like a Luddite, So yeah, I can record on a computer, but everything else, I go, Josh,
I think most people have had the experience since lockdown that wherever they used to be, they've had to learn new things. And that can look very different for different people. We've had some live chat come up from Pamela Hillier, who's obviously somebody who is good with computers and technology. And one of the things that we really wanted to reach out and stress to people is, if you've got a friend, a parent, a sibling, a neighbour who didn't used to use the internet very much or at all because they didn't need to, and now they do. How about giving them a bit of phone based support? Because most people, I think, even if they didn't to start with understand that this was going to be a long term issue, you know, the so called new normal, the return to different lockdowns, the social distancing, I think as people beginning to realize that it is, and certainly that is one of our absolute commitments to our regular participants. We're working very hard with London Borough of Newham and the voluntary sector to launch projects that will allow people in areas that have been hit as hard by COVID as Newham has to be able to start to access the technology, the data, but also critically the training. And yeah, I think all of us can assist people on a one-to-one basis that we know. It's always best, Josh, I feel, to teach somebody how to do it rather than do it for them. And again, I think when you can't whiz around to somebody's house in the same way, being able to empower people to learn how to do things for themselves has probably become a bit more of the norm. What new things have you learned? I've learned how to do live streaming, which was not a skill that I'd ever imagined I would need. And look at us now. Julie?
I guess what we're doing. Never occurred to me that we could be doing this and sort of. It's nice to see the guys sort of 3 times a week regularly,
Shucks.
but also just sort of having something that reaches out beyond us. I think is very important, and it's exciting to be part of that.
That's absolutely true, but I was really meaning what new software or kit have you learned to use since lockdown started? I know you spend quite a lot of time online, so there must be different things.
I'm trying out different film apps and photographic apps and so on. Most have got little things that need sorting out. I'm still learning. I'll
And
be
you're learning
honest.
PlayStation as well, aren't you?
Oh yes, me and PlayStation. I don't think are ever going to be.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Oh,
Yes,
I
you are.
don't know if you say.
Since
I've
when?
not spent all that money on a
I was
PlayStation.
going to say, Jews bought it for you. Now you will learn.
And I
No.
think again, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just the technology we've had to learn to use for work since lockdown. It's also the kind of what do you do with yourselves if you're not going to go out and you still want to enjoy yourselves, and the technology has come along there as well. I think huge numbers of people have learned to do things like Zoom. I suspect actually people are still less familiar with email. I saw a reference the other day to university admissions tutors saying they found it very hard to understand that young people might never have sent an email because they did everything via WhatsApp and other apps and Facebook, and actually doing something like using the internet as we would think of it as older people was, you have a phone, you don't have a printer, it's a whole different world. And
Yeah.
again, one that I think more and more of us are getting into. I'm delighted that actually Halifax Building Society finally decided I could sign up for online banking without having to go to a branch. I can actually touch my money for about the first time in 3 years. So technology is improving.
Yeah.
If I didn't have online access, I would really want that Halifax branch
Well,
to be
Josh,
open.
I mean, I was going to say, I mean, Josh found out, and I don't know if you, I have a Halifax account, but I also have a HSBC account. And on the HSBC account, you can pay checks in by just photographing them on your phone. It's well cool.
Yeah, I only found out when I went to the bank mistakenly on Black Friday because I didn't realise the day. And going to Meadowhall on Black Friday was a interesting experience. It was kind of busy.
That's a big shopping centre in Sheffield for
Yeah,
those
it's a
that
very
don't
large
know.
shopping centre in Sheffield. And yeah, I kind of went in and said I need to pay this in. I was met at the door and I said I need to pay this in. She's like, you can do that on your phone, you know. I was like, no.
I
How? She's like, oh, you just take a photo and press submit. I was like, oh, cool, thanks.
And this is another example of how important it is to reach out to other people and share the tech skills you've got. I often find, as a disabled person who's had a limited ability to go out for 20 years, that there's all sorts of things I don't know because in that kind of group conversations, people go, "Oh, how do you do this? Oh, have you seen this? Have you done such and such?" And I think one advantage, if you like, of if you aren't digitally excluded, of being forced to be communicating online as a sort of primary thing, is just beginning to find out those things for yourself if you don't have the kind of group knowledge that other people have. And I think that's one of the reasons we're struggling with PlayStation, because if we were many decades younger, our friends would already have shown us how to use it at their house before we ever got one. And they'd be showing us how to play the games, or their elder brother would be showing us how to play the games. So we can substitute for that as individuals just by supporting the people we know through the means of communication that they're familiar with, which is often the phone. I can't really access voice calls, so I'm here advocating for phone calls all the time without really being able to be included. But I have all sorts of devices and I have broadband, so I have lots and lots of other options.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other learning, I mean, one thing that I've learned a huge amount about is um, the movie software, iMovie. I mean, yes, that is specific to Apple. I realise that, um, but you know, with the tutelage of Joshua, I have moved on massively in what I can from not even knowing where to start on iMovie to being able to put stuff in, chop it up, move it around, add sounds, um, put bits in
Green
between
screen.
scenes, yeah, green screening, and again that was out of necessity for um, some this and other bits of work that I was doing, and some community stuff I was doing with our church needed to do these things, um, and actually it's once you've kind of taken that leap. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not moving to Final Cut yet. That's way beyond my um, aspirations at the moment. But we kind of talked in the weeks about filmmaking, and quite a lot last week. And I'm building ideas. I am storyboarding in my head at the moment. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but um,
No, it doesn't actually.
um, yeah, I was imagining I'm kind of drawing on the inside of my forehead if I can see it with my mind's eye. But yeah, coming up with stuff and then thinking, well, if I was how would I do that with what I now know? So that's it's cool. I mean, it's and it, people always say every cloud's got a silver lining, um, but kind of you know we are where we're at, so let's take advantage of what we need to do rather than burying our heads and saying can't do that, just have to not do it.
Or see it as second best. We've decided Together 2012, this is our digital year. It's not our COVID year, it's not our lockdown year, it's not our second best year, it's our digital year. And at the end of that, we will have all of us, every single person who's involved with Together 2012 will have better digital skills and, yeah, be more powerful as a result. Talking of videos, this is a good time to flag up. All those photographs are great as well. If you're making anything at home, it could be painting, drawing, photography, knitting, craft, anything that at all that you can think of, jewelry, please send us a photo or a video. On Monday, we had Justine on from Newham Community Broadcasting. They're producing a program called Newham Unlocked, showcasing the wonderful creativity of our residents. The first episode is released on YouTube tomorrow. If you send us a video of your work, we will also be sending it, assuming you live in Newham, because of course many of you do not. We will be sending that over to Newham Unlocked to be used on their channel as well. So hopefully that's a bit of an incentive to get out there video making. We talked on Monday, didn't we, Julie, about how easy it was to take still photographs and a bit of music and put it into a slideshow. However, you found it quite hard to get it off again, haven't you?
I've done reasonably well. I think one of my difficulties is I'm used to Final Cut Pro, and it's a bit more sophisticated. So I'm sort of having to go to resort to the YouTube how to do something, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But hopefully on Monday I'll have a little film and we can talk it through.
But I was wondering, do you think it's an issue if you're editing on a tablet compared to a computer? I mean, I know lots of people edit on their phone now, although those packages do have some limitations. But when you've been trying to transfer the film, that seems to have been the issue, that it's been up in the cloud. It's not a sort of physical film on your iPad that you can attach to something like WeTransfer and send over. And I think that can be one of the very frustrating things. You can do something and it all looks beautiful on your computer, and sharing it looks very, very different. One of the things I just mentioned is WeTransfer. For anybody who's new to sending video files, that is a free web based app. You can also get a paid for account where you can do more, but it allows you to upload your files directly from your computer or from your tablet, and then WeTransfer sends a link by email. You just click on the link and that file downloads again. So if you're wondering how you send big files, WeTransfer is a very obvious way of doing it. There's also a very similar system called Dropbox, but Dropbox is much keener for you to do things like sign in, and do you want to keep it in your Dropbox account or do you want to share it? And going through that, kind of what's most straightforward for me, getting an email saying so and so has shared some files, click on this link, and it just starts, is a very good way to go. I mean, what do you find, Josh, when you've been making some of your videos? How are you getting them? Are you editing them on the laptop or the phone?
No, on my laptop. I'm lucky enough I have a computer that is able to kind of handle that processing, because I needed a powerful computer for my uni stuff. So it means it can double up quite nicely as a video editing tool. Um, I've predominantly been using iMovie in the past, and then I've recently kind of shifted over into Final Cut. So I've kind of done the reverse of Julie. I've kind of gone up to Final Cut. I certainly with the Apple products, and it may well be that I'm more familiar with computer softwares. I think a lot of the Apple products are fairly user friendly. In not necessarily in terms of layout, but once you get the kind of basics down, which there's kind of help guides kind of built into the apps on into the software how to do them, you can do fairly complex things quite easily or quite simply, especially in kind of the iMovie, in terms of editing sound and backgrounds and stabilizing. They're literally, you just tick the stabilize or kind of reduce background noise is a tick box. You don't have to kind of go in and start playing with different faders and levels and things. And even on kind of more complex things, if you want to start, boost the bass or whatever, it literally is bass booster, bass reducer, treble booster, treble reducer. So you don't have to know the kind of like Dad does, all the complex things around going in and fiddling with decibels. Just does it. You can just like, yeah, I want that one, and it does it all for you. It's wonderful.
But I mean, if you're if we just pull this back a minute before anybody gets completely horrified, if you just want to make a short video with still photographs about your raffia work, Apple.
Yeah, I mean, iMovie is great for that. I mean, you literally just kind of drag and drop.
Well, what I was going to go on to say is I think where Apple really falls down is actually sharing what you've made. And it starts by, instead of saying save this as a such and such, it goes, would you like to share this? Which actually isn't the same thing at all. And then you end up going to a list of devices that you might want to share it with. And most people actually don't want to know that. They want to know, can I save it as an MP4 that's suitable to play on everything? Can I save it as a QuickTime movie that's better quality? And certainly when you've got the iPad app, I think that's also part of the problem. It's a different problem. But this
Yeah,
sharing as opposed to saving, I think, is really very unhelpful. I'm going to move on now and play you a video which will explain a bit more about our Join In From Home program. After that, coming up, as it's Wednesday, we have our Clockwork Paralympics. You will see we've both got teddy bears in the background. Each week we take part in the International Virtual Bear Hunt, and in our case, because the Surgeoners are the most competitive family in the world, and we're pretty competitive here as well. We race our clockwork toys to see which teddy bear has the right to wear a gold medal for the week. We've also got Virtual Nature Watch, where Julie's assistant's dog can just about be bothered to stagger outside with a camera on its back to show us the outside world. In this case, I will be pointing out the gardening that I was doing yesterday, so we won't worry Julie about the commentary. And then we're going to be coming on to some virtual gaming and sport things to do online with Josh, and finish with a bit more poetry. So this video is going to explain a bit more about our Join In From Home program. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home program from our website together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page, where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message, or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days, and you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. Great. So, and just to confirm, we've also had a query on live chat. To send us in work, you have several choices. You can email tvinfo or just Ju, Ju, at together2012.org.uk. I'm just going to put that up on the bottom of the screen. We would very much like to see your poems, whether they're on the theme of Together or not. That's the other thing that I wanted to clarify. So, Julie, moving on, we're going to have Virtual Nature Watch with Precious Newman. How did Precious get on this morning?
She doesn't really like getting her paws wet. But no, she's as a good a little camera person as ever. She sort of puts the harness on and the camera's attached to it, and she just gets on with it.
And it's quite a cheap camera, isn't it? What's the cheapest camera that you can get to put on a pet for anybody else who
Well,
fancies
yeah,
trying this out?
I did a little bit of research for somebody else, actually for Merlot and Stera, and there's a really good camera for £29 on Amazon, and it's got an external mic, which I think is really helpful, because if you put these sport cameras into the casing, then it mutes the microphone. It's actually quite difficult to get decent sound. So having an external mic is very useful. And it was only about £6 extra. So in total, that came to under £35. And then there was a harness, because Merlot's a much bigger dog than Precious. He needs a different sort of harness, although the same basic principle, just larger. So that came to about £20. So there is an outlay. I mean, let's face it, if you don't have 50 quid, then you don't have 50 quid. But for about 50 quid, you can get a kit which will work. It's got a remote attached to it. It's a pretty good little versatile outfit, but it's certainly cheaper than the GoPro option.
Well, I think most things would be cheaper than that. And yes, it's if you want any kind of body camera. And I originally got my GoPro because of the amount of harassment I was having in the street, and I actually decided that I was going to record it. So yes, there are far more cheaper options, and there are lots of things you can do with them. So we've talked a bit about gardening, isn't everybody, over lockdown? I've got a very sweet but very small yard. It's impossible to socially distance when your garden is only 20 feet square. So I go out suitably masked and gloved and garden when it's safe, but we don't actually sit in it. We've kind of turned it round so it looks best from outside, from inside looking out. But I had a really good go yesterday and even managed to replace some rotten decking tiles myself. Not, it has to be admitted, by gluing them and nailing them or anything other than slotting them in where the old rotten ones were. But then it rained all night, so the wood swelled. It's fitted the decking tiles in, and it's no longer a major hazard when I go out. So I'm sure Precious really appreciated that. Let's have a look. And I'll just say, Robin and Josh, just put your mics on mute for a minute. So, as usual, Precious is going out of my kitchen door onto the decking. And yes, where the kind of lighter wood is where I was replacing the decking tiles. That little package she's looking at on the left is the slats for the bench, which is rather a longer kind of project because it needs a hole drilling out of it, and we're not quite sure how we're going to manage that, although clearly with a drill. So she's coming over to check out the plants. The one by the back door does unfortunately look like it's just died, but the tomatoes are still doing well, and so is the sandpit, although of course she doesn't like it when she gets her feet wet. At this point she's actually deciding maybe she'll get under the table instead, but she can't quite manage that. She's sheltering under a friend's yucca plant at the moment, which bizarrely has managed to survive the last 2 winters out there. You wouldn't think that was possible. But she's obviously not keen to go much further. No, she said there's water in the sand pit. It's just not good enough. I'm just going to shelter under a bit more yucca. Bit of a shake.
I love how it goes round like that. It's really nice. Oh, Precious.
No, it's too wet. She's going to come back in again. So, as a nature film, or indeed a view of the outside world, well, did it work for you, Judy? You literally haven't been outside the door for 15 weeks.
Absolutely. I love seeing her little films. It makes my heart burst with pride.
Well, that's partly because my assistant's dog won't even contemplate wearing a harness. You know, he just looks at me as if I am stark, staring bonkers. Well, how's your garden doing up in the West Midlands?
Extremely well actually. I mean, just thanks to having to bring somebody in because it's far too big for us. I mean, that's just the way it is. I honestly, when we moved house, did not realize quite how big our back garden is. um, which sounds like a real first world problem to have. I realize.
Well, no, it sounds like a very good problem to have. But you know, when I first moved into this basically terraced cottage in Canning Town, for anybody who wants to know more about where we're broadcasting from, people who watch the show regularly may remember that a week or so ago I released a film as part of Newham Heritage Month, which is basically an at-home film where I show you around for half an hour. There's a link from our highlights and links page. Anything we talk about today will also be on the highlights and links page. And that's on our website, www.together2012.org.uk, just under the main page for Together Unlocked TV. Julie, shall we move on to the Clockwork Paralympics and the virtual sport, or is there anything else you wanted to say about gardening?
No, I imagine the rain's been nice, but be careful of the wind because the wind's been quite gusty.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean we've had some really interesting weather. No more lightning, but yeah, we're certainly not short of rain, having had the driest May forever. June has
You should
proved.
explain for new viewers that Julie only means it's a shame because Josh got such fantastic pictures of lightning last time. So introduce this week's Teddy.
So on our theme of where they come from, this one is, sorry, Mr. Mike. This is Little H. He is yet another bear from a well-known store in London. I think that every time we come to London, which isn't that often, is we end up going there just to get a bear, no other reason. So here he is. He's ready to virtually race.
Well, this is Pink Ted. He's a pink teddy with one eye, and Julie said he looked a bit manky, but in fact, I believe this was the first teddy bear I ever had, and I don't think he ever had a name beyond Pink Ted. And you know, he's well into his 50s. Why wouldn't he look a little bit scruffy?
Well, you don't look manky.
Well, that's the
What's your bear?
marvels of the camera, isn't it? Yeah, I'd much rather be on screen than be seen.
Come
in real
on,
life.
let's do the Olympics.
Let's do the Olympics. So, a little bit of audio description here. The Clockwork Toys. This week's competitors, we have new competitors representing London 2012 and Birmingham 2020, and they are Clockwork Pigs. They are racing as is becoming usual up my very small landing. Having taken up all the rugs, and it's almost a bit like curling. I end up hoovering and all sorts to try and stop these little creatures going off on their own little trails. So as you look at the screen, because I'm told that there's been a little bit of cheating going on, do you want the right pig or the left pig?
Left.
Left as we look at the screen.
Yeah, so that would be the same as your hand.
Yes.
Well, that
No, not for
my
us.
hand, that's my left hand.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
All right. If I'm looking at the screen, this
Yeah.
is my right hand.
Oh, so it'd be the one that you release with your right hand.
Yes, let's do it like that.
Or the one that wins, perhaps.
And I think that's the thing. It did seem to me that your record of winning almost every race did seem to be slightly open to interpretation, which was the left and which was the right. But I'm sure you will win anyway. We have
No.
usual gold plastic medal as presented to us in London 2012. Which medal is your teddy bear playing for
Josh?
today?
This is one of my gold medals from a wheelchair basketball tournament about 3 years ago. So that is a
Go, Josh. That looks lovely.
national gold medal, national champions gold medal.
It certainly does.
It's certainly
So
big
we'll
enough,
leave
isn't
your
it?
mics on. It's only a very short sprint. And so let's get this on.
And we have absolutely
Yes.
stormed it
I-
once again.
Yes, there we go. Here we go, little H. Here's your very big medal.
Julie's
Right.
still convinced
No, it was
that
us.
she won, but never mind. You
No.
can watch it
No,
back.
the other one
later.
went off piste. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
but that was the one that started on the other side and then veered over. Don't worry, don't worry. They're all any stewards will verify the.
At least
It's quick, but some of these toys are quicker than others. But it was time to retire the Clockwork Racing grannies because they had motorised wheelchairs, and that's not really in the spirit of the Paralympics.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah.
So moving swiftly on, Josh. Each week we have a little bit of sport and also gaming. Gaming we very much consider to be an art, sport, physical activity. It's visual and you can participate. So we look at both. There's some more real sport coming back, isn't there?
yes. So quickly on some sports stories because the kind of the merge of sport and gaming in that for this week. But I know last week we talked about Alex Zanardi, who was a racer. He's now had a third kind of round of surgery, but he's still in a pretty rough shape in hospital. So kind of just wishing him all the best to get better.
Absolutely.
On Friday, and it was really remiss of me to miss this, but Friday was Ludwig Gutmann's birthday, who was the doctor based out of Stoke Mandeville, that kind of pretty much created what became the Paralympic Games, way back
Oh,
in
it's
the
really
40s.
We met his family, didn't we? And I think we've got time to say this. Yes, a few years ago they opened the Sir Ludwig Gutmann Health Centre, which was the Athletes Health Centre, is now an NHS clinic, and I think it was his daughter and granddaughter we met who wished together 2012 very well indeed, and that was lovely. So, were there any particular celebrations, or was it?
I saw some things on Twitter, kind of from the IPC and from kind of different international kind of parasporting bodies, that I didn't kind of see them until later in the day. Otherwise, I would have mentioned it on the show on Friday. So I do feel a little bit bad for missing that as the sports correspondent. So there we go. I know, shocking. And then with kind of the return of Formula One last weekend, and that's going on again this weekend, as sport returns, as it kind of merges into the gaming segment. We've been getting back into our racing on Xbox. So there is the F1 game that is just F1 and the year you want, 2020 being the newest one. But also a game called Forza Motorsport 7, which is Forza, but it's Italian, so you pronounce it Forza. That you can drive, I mean, most famous racetracks all over the world, in pretty much anything you can think of, from kind of Formula One cars to sports cars, to a transit van, kind of three-wheel. We were racing lorries around the streets of Budapest, I think, the other day.
Although I've never seen a three-wheeled invalid carriage in there, they've missed that one out. Those blue plastic ones, remember those? We had very many names that we probably can't actually say on Together Unlocked.
They're made by Reliant, weren't they?
There is a Reliant Robin. There's a PLP 50, I think, in there as well.
No, they weren't Reliant Robin. They were separate because they were very strange things with like all hand controls and.
Yeah.
But I think they were the same company because Reliant were the only ones who made plastic cars.
Yeah, maybe.
I only because many years ago I had a Reliant that probably spent a lot longer in the garage than it ever did on the road, but it didn't rust. And I quite often think now, with all the kind of conversation about all cars are evil, which it's kind of difficult if you're a wheelchair user and you know you need to use cars. You sort of think, well, maybe not if they're made of recycled plastic and run on electric power.
Or hydrogen, as is the new
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's hydrogen fuel cells.
You know,
Yeah.
you know that little blue car that you were talking about.
Hmm.
A friend of mine who sadly is no longer with us, Jenny Cook, had one back in the day, and she lived in South London. And she was on the South Circular Road one day and pulled up at a traffic lights, and there was a bit of a storm. We were talking about gusty winds. Well, the gusty wind blew her mobility car over onto its side, and she sort of sat there wondering what on earth to do. Two hefty lorry drivers got out of their cabs, came over, hoiked it back up so that it was sat on its wheels, got back in their vans, and everybody drove off when the lights changed. But it was very, very light, wasn't it?
I believe
That must have
just
been
to
such a
try.
surreal thing to see.
I suppose it is a disability culture, so I will allow it. But I believe somebody did an exhibition a few years ago. Let's have a look and see if we can find it online. And if we can, we'll flag it up on Friday. Sorry, Josh, we totally steered off from you.
Oh no, it was worth it all for that story. That sounds wonderful. And then no, the final thing on gaming was we brought the Crash Bandicoot Insane, which is N space SANE trilogy, which is a remastering of the original three Crash games that are on, I believe, PlayStation 1, probably. I think the first one was. And I had such fond memories as playing Crash Bandicoot, which are rapidly evaporating as I die over and over and over and over and over on the same thing.
So it's basically because I mean, let me represent the people who haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Let's just pretend for a minute. So Crash Bandicoot, it does what it says. You just keep crashing. Can you?
It's
explain
a
how it works?
platforming game when you play as a bandicoot, which is some sort of animal type fox
It's a little
creature.
mammal. Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of there's platforms that you have to jump to and from, and they move, and there's enemies and traps, and it is very fun, but it is also absolutely rage inducing because you can do the same thing perfectly, and then you just jump and just completely miss. I know we were both trying to play it the other day, and getting a tad
Yeah, I mean,
annoyed.
and if you make the jump, you can get offed by Bandicoot eating praying. No, what's that flower?
Venus flytrap.
Oh yeah, by a Venus flytrap, by killer turtles, just by strange looking native Indian type foresty people who push you off edges.
My own stupidity a lot of the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of panic. If you make the jump, panic, go back, and then walk off the edge.
So what I'm really picking up from this is if you want to just purely relax because of your lockdown anxiety, it's not a relaxing game. But if you want to completely forget about lockdown and become obsessed by bandicoots dying, then it seems like
it is both relaxing and incredibly unrelaxing at the same time.
I mean, I think the point that you're making there is really it's one of those games
you
where
do just kind of lose yourself into it.
You can't think about anything else while you're doing it, because you're playing and trying not to die. But it's also ridiculously stupid. It's not like Assassin's Creed or Modern Warfare where it's kind of people killing each other and stuff. It's just a silly cartoon animal or digital animal that
it does make a difference, and we are looking for different things in strange times, and I think it can be very, very hard to do mindfulness, or it maybe not be great to be mindful of your immediate surroundings if you're sitting there and getting really upset about being on your own. But you can, like you say, be totally taken into the moment and totally taken away from everything else. by these games. Of course, I have no idea what these other games are you're talking about either, but I personally would, prefer to be a bandicoot bouncing around. Have they brought that out for the PlayStation? Because I think you're an Xboxer, aren't you?
Yes, it's across Xbox and PlayStation, and I believe PC. I think it was a PlayStation exclusive for a long time, and it
What
is now
about
out on Xbox as well.
And what about the artwork? Because we've talked quite a lot about how games are very much about filmmaking and art making, and plus, they're like interactive.
Colours are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, it was quite funny. I think you said it when you came in, that it looks like how we remember it looking, because it looks amazing. And then it's quite there's a bit at the start that has the original graphics of the game, and then it goes through a machine and it comes out how it looks in the remastered one. So I got him to watch it, and it's like, oh, that looks terrible. That looks absolutely awful. But obviously, when you played it 15, 20 years ago, when it was the height of graphics, it did look amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's so colourful and quite simplistic in its design, I think.
I mean, I guess that's some sort of gestalt thing. Your mind fills in the spaces that allow you to see it in a way that looks complete. Because really, there was such a huge difference between what it looked like as they showed it you and what it now looks like. But what it now looks like is what you saw.
It's what it looked like
all those years ago.
Yeah, when it was the height of what it could look like.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that before, haven't we? That, with the early Nintendos and all of the early computer games, what the visual information you get is actually really, really minimal, and it's all in your head. It's just a shame that they haven't or didn't manage to translate that into something you could play without being able to see at all, because in many ways you just really need to see.
Can I just remind everybody, just before we move away from sport, that Wimbledon's still on? And
completely forgot.
just a gentle reminder. Today's 1:30 show was Steffi Graf, and I just look again at her and think, wow, she was really such a powerful player in her time, and quite radical in that way. But I noticed that the American Open is due to resume on the 31st of August. And there was a very interesting article about various players' responses to that. And everybody, I think, is just holding back and just waiting to see what's going to happen before they jump into New York.
But with Wimbledon, just to go back to that, I mean, we would have had a film today. Again, that was Julie's film that we just couldn't get off the iPad. And that was a slideshow, effectively, of our memories of Wimbledon.
4 years worth.
Yeah, so I think it's worth flagging up for people in the future. So just to summarise, I think from last week, Wimbledon is they're showing great matches, aren't they? And they're showing one in the afternoon and one in the evening. They're doing some presenting live from the club. What you do to get tickets for Wimbledon is they have a public ballot. So you see all these adverts with very, very expensive tickets, and you see all these pictures of the queue. But there is a different way. You go into the public ballot, there's an open ballot, there's also a specific ballot for wheelchair users. And almost every year we've been in the ballot, we've had a set of tickets. Sometimes it's been court number 2, sometimes it's been number 1, sometimes it's been number 3. And once it was centre court, because it is really completely random. You don't have to take the tickets you're offered throughout the ballot. Anybody who gets ballot tickets can decide not to take them up, but those are the tickets that you have the opportunity to
get. Did you get men's finals tickets one year in that public ballot, and then didn't take me, which I was not happy about?
Yes, people always wonder why you haven't taken them, and you think, well, because there's only 2 tickets. That is the other thing to say. If you get a ticket for a wheelchair user, you also get a free companion ticket.
Which is why I didn't take him, because
it was only one wheelchair.
I mean, but I
Yes,
mean,
actually have to sort of cheat that a little bit because we both turn up and they go, "Well, you're both disabled," and we say, "Well, yes, but we really wanted to come together." So unfortunately, that is the way it works. But people have been quite flexible. We end up parking one wheelchair or squeezing one in, or the whole thing is run by volunteers from the forces. So the security on the courts is actually the forces. People are very flexible. I've never really gone on a regular basis to any sporting event, and anybody who knows me won't be surprised by that. But I have really enjoyed Wimbledon over the years and very much hoping that next year it's safe to go. If not, then I will wait and carry on watching the excellent BBC coverage. But yes, it's something we do really enjoy. And if we manage to get this film off, we will show it on Friday, when we will also be having our usual dressing up to go out to stay in, where we dress up to go out and then stay in. The great advantage of that is it doesn't have to be a practical costume and you don't really have to be able to go. So if you want to dress up to go to the moon, that's absolutely fine. Send us your photos, send us your videos. We would love to share them. And we will, of course, be dressing up ourselves. We also have a more lengthy item on what's available online called Something for the Weekend, where we round up all of the things that you can do while you stay home, stay creative, and stay well. I think, does anybody else have anything to add to that? And it's time for some final words. You can actually have some final words, and then I will be finishing, as it's Wednesday, with another poem from emerging poet Graham Price. So I shall hand over to the rest of you to say goodbyes first.
Just very quickly, as a postscript to Wimbledon, you still have to pay for the tickets. They're not free. But just as
Well,
a
the companion ticket is
for
free.
sure. But when I went to Wimbledon the first time, we were very, very close to the court itself. And I think the thing that struck me the most, and which I haven't been able to include in the little film, is the grass. It's so green, and it's something very different about being very, very close to the grass itself on court. It's a very strange experience, and very interesting.
yeah, I mean, the two times I've been were actually both centre court, but one of them was we were in the kind of the area, was it the old centre court? So it was the area that you were kind of on the grass level, at the one end of the court, which was a fantastic place to be because you got a real sense of it. And last time I went, we were in like the disabled seats that were right at the very, very top and back of the um center stand, and you couldn't, and actually the roof got in the way, like the roof coming down like
Yes,
that.
that's where we sat, but it was still fascinating. And I think it shows you, as I'm sure all great live sporting events show, it's very similar to live theatre or live music. You've got the drama, you've got the crowds, you've got the tension, you've got the comedic moments. Art and sport are not very far apart.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And on that happy note, I shall ask you all to say goodbye.
Bye bye,
Bye from the West
everybody.
Midlands.
Yeah.
Bye, West
Yeah,
Midlands.
we will look forward to seeing you on Friday. So, finally, this is from Graham Price and it's called Dream Cloud. Should I persist? Not sure I could resist. Why consider slowing when the juice is flowing? Perhaps it's not a matter of choice, more important to use one's voice. Take care, if it's too loud, it will end under a cloud. And who will that serve? Not even me in reserve. How do I end in this quietening day? Just stop and try moving away. And is that good enough? Try it, though it'll be tough. Should I stop and ask why? Why? No, it's time. I'm off. Goodbye, goodbye. And it's goodbye from all of us.